My goodness, this sounds fantastic. Hi, I'm Don Baldan from SampleLibraryReview.com, and I'm very excited today. We're going to be checking out LA Modern Percussion by Ollie. For the library, Ollie teamed up with Performance Samples and Alan Meyerson, who, if you're not familiar, Alan's score mixing and recording credits are 25 years of blockbuster game and film history. For LA Modern Percussion, the team took to Warner Brothers' Eastwood Stage.
Certain large rooms have a lot of space, but you don't really get a sense of the space in it. It just feels like space, and there's a reverb and all that, and it's nice, but Warner Brothers really has a signature to it.
And for the recordings, Alan rolled out his private microphone collection of rare and one-of-a-kind microphones.
Part of the fun is going to be for the user to be able to go in there and pick and choose how they want to balance the room. And then also at the same time, I'm going to give you one of my mixes.
LA Modern Percussion downloads is 24.66 gigabytes. It auto-downloads and installs using Continuata Connect. Sample sets include bass drums, doles, djembe, gran casa, rototoms, shakers, Cerdo, Tycho, tom, and two-pan solo and ensemble instruments captured with up to 14 microphones. The library includes hits and rolls, tempo-synced phrases and grooves, which are labeled as fill patches, and 12 dynamics up to 7 round robins for a total of 100 plus patches. The library is touting its economic CPU usage, advanced mixing controls, and its design for efficient workflow. LA Modern Percussion does require the full version of Contact of 5.8 or higher, and normally sells for $499. At the time of putting this together, there's a special intro price of $349. I'll be sure to include a link to take you straight over to the Ollie LA Modern Percussion page, as well as to Sample Library Reviews review page here that'll have all the demos, any other reviews I find around the web. Alright, just a quick note before we jump in. This is a redo video, and the reason being is because when I originally checked out the library, I checked out the multis first, and the way these multis are set up, they load up effects into Contact, and because I just continued on checking out the instruments after I'd listened to the multi-patches, the effects were still loaded, and I found some strangeness to the instrument, and a couple people caught it right away after I uploaded the video. So this is a redo video. We're just going to be playing through the multis first, and then I'm going to dive into each individual instrument and see what it offers. Alright, this is a first look video. I'm just opening up the instrument for the first time and sharing my experience as I check it out with you. You can see we've got the LA Modern Percussion folder here, and they deliver it with an instruments folder, giving you separate, tons of instruments divided among the actual physical instruments. And then there's also a multis instrument folder. Tons of multis. Okay, so I'm going to jump into the multis first, just because I think this might be fun and exciting. I think from the demos, listening to these multis, these are pretty powerful. This is odd. The first one loads up with one of them muted. Oh, that is a big sound. Now, this is very interesting. This is a dynamic set of samples. And you can see here, we've got lowest dynamics at the bottom, and then higher dynamics up top. And this is called Beast Flam Close. I'm just going to listen through a selection of these, and then we'll dig into the individual instruments as well. another dynamic set. Now it looks like up top we've got in these green keys, it looks like these are layered, so we should be able to play. Velocity sensitive. Yeah, I'm getting a lot of volume out of this. I'm going to pull my instrument fader back a tiny bit just so I don't blow out my output. And one thing I remember reading or watching in the official videos is how, oh my goodness, this is a huge multi. This is amazing. How a lot of these come preloaded with Alan's mix, and he really tends to have a ton of stereo space, which I'm a huge fan of. I just think it sounds so rich. So there's a lot going on. Just a way to quickly load up and get a massive instrument. Now I am hearing a little bit of rumble there. I'm wondering if that's a room hiss. I noticed in the official videos they talked about how they left it in so you have control over the individual room tails. That is unexpected. This is hard dynamic Gran Casa ensemble rubs. And it sounds like they're sound designed for downers. Very cool. Yeah, that's nice. Shakers, doles, and Tychos stacked together. This is unexpected again. Gran Casa ensemble rubs, only they're pitched in a way that you almost get a melodic instrument. That's very cool. All right, we got Godzilla Stomps. That's irresistible as far as checking out to see what this sounds like. Ooh, I hope you got headphones or your subs on, people. There's a lot of oomph and low end going on there. Such piercing layers in that one. Just randomly selecting through some of these, and then we'll get into the individual instruments. I can't tell you how much I love Tycho rim hits. Kick like drum from our Cerdo. All right, we've got rolls here up on our high C4 and mod wheel controls, dynamics. I'm such a huge fan of mod wheel for rolls. Very nice. My goodness, this sounds fantastic. I think it's interesting they've got these layers here muted. Like they've got a few of these in here in their multi where you could see they've muted them. I'm going to unmute them. And then mute them again. Just gives it a tiny bit of different character. My first thought was that they were optional. That's why they mute them. So you have an option to load them up. I don't feel like this instrument has been rushed out. Otherwise, I would guess from, other developers that they were just rushing through and didn't update them. But these seems more like the muted ones are their way to give you an option to add a little bit more and change the multi. Yeah, these just sound great. Pirate Raid. Somali Pirate Raid. Okay, again, we've got three different instruments muted. Let's go ahead and unmute those and see what we get now. Get a little more oomph behind this multi once those are unmuted. We've got several sub hits. All right, once again, I was not expecting this. There's something about this library already in the way that it's set up, not just recognizing that modern percussion is used in thematic, orchestral settings, hybrid settings, but also as sound design. And I'm really feeling that totally kicks into play with the way they've served up these multis here. I knew there were going to be some really cool flams, and in the instruments, we'll get into some of, I believe they call them fills. Those are their phrase, tempo-synced instruments, performances, and some improv. Sub-hits, once again. I hope you got your subwoofer on. All right, I've got the bass drum ensemble instrument up here. And the way that this looks to be set up is we've got dynamic, low to high performances on the blue keys. So it doesn't matter how hard I hit on these blue keys, they're still going to play the low dynamics, and then up at the top, it's going to play that. So I'm going to mute my microphone and just have a little play. Not as coordinated as I'd like to be in the morning. Up here at the green keys, you'll see we've got the ability to play velocity sensitive keys. So again, that's a velocity dependent. And that's how I prefer to write, because I can think left and right-handed, although I'm really digging this low velocity to high velocity usage across the keyboard. Another thing that I think is pretty cool is they've included different mix variations. So I've just loaded up the mixers that are included for overhead and bass and tom. And that's got a lot of stereo in there. You can see they've got a couple studio left, right. Let's load up these close ones just so we can play around a little bit. And now we could say that's too much stereo. And let's just listen to the room mic by itself. Yeah, just like that alone is really nice. And then let's put a little bit of these close mics in here. All right, these are all ensemble, and they've also got fill instruments for several of these. And I believe the way it's set up, they've got different performances. Tempo synced, I'm at 120. Now I'm at 160. Now I'm at 85. It starts to degrade a little bit around 85. This one was recorded at 120. And I think that's just the nature of dealing with loops playing back that slow. I think we could probably get away with 100. And anything faster is always going to sound good. The way they've mapped these is it progressively gets more complicated the higher you go up on the keyboard. And then we've got fills. That's what these phrases are called at 170. And I'm at 123. That's why we heard a little bit of format. And we've got a nice stereo spread on those. And you can see with each of these, you get your mix options as well as your mics. We've got traditional hits and rolls instrument. This is what I was looking for. So we've got our left, right, velocity sensitive. And then we've got mod wheel controlled rolls. And this might be a good time to listen to some more of these presets for mixes. That's a close. We've got some mid versions. Yeah, so beefy. Some room versions. And then a few focused ones. We listened to the Tom's bass drums overhead mix version, but let's go ahead and lift to overhead focus. Ooh, so much bite. All right, let's move along because there's a lot to cover here, and I want to be sure to share some of the presets for each of the instruments. Again, this is loading up with the default setting. And we've got the same kind of instrument here with the traditional hits and rolls. There's also a couple flam instruments in this one. Just on separate layers, separate instruments. So that's an ensemble. Tycho, let's listen to the... We've got 4 different Tycho soloists. And again, velocity low to high, or velocity dependent on your playing. And I believe these will just be in different parts of the room. Ah, they're different drums, different size drums. From low to high. We've got some dual soloist instrument. And I think on this, I want to listen to some of these improvs. These should be similar phrases. Tempo synced. And we get 3 different versions of these. Then we also have Those were the hands improved. Here's some hard with sticks, I would assume, improvs. And we got 3 of those at 120 and 1 at 170. Move along, lots to cover. I'm going to mute my mic and try some of those different mic positions on this. Yeah, the space that you get throughout this is pretty impressive. Just the stereo. Let's move along. Got a lot more drums to cover. Looks like we got a couple versions, an alternative version of the ensemble hits. Yeah, it's got that nice kind of ringing sound to it. And some fills here. Yeah, these are really nice. The only thing I'm seeing right now that I did have a little bit of a critique about is there's no release sample, so you will need to load up one of your harder hits just to finish off anytime you're going to use one of these fills or loops, or at least that's what it looks like. Please correct me in the description below if that is not accurate, but I'm not hearing release samples. And I guess that's what these freeze end hit instruments might be for. They might be specifically designed for you to load up. Let's see how it looks here. We collapse this and go from this set. Yeah, that gives you a way you could stack 2 instruments from the fills and the end phrase end hits and finish off if you want to have a single hit there at the end. I'm assuming that's what it's designed for. Okay, let's listen to some of the Gran Casa. And I bet we could shape this one quite a bit too. Okay, I was trying to play the same pattern with the green velocity sensitive and the blue, and I can see how these blue ones could be very useful. I like the idea behind them. Being able to just kind of hammer away at your keyboard. And we heard some of these used in the multis to really make sound design instruments. And I think this pulley, this might be a stick. What do they call it? I can't remember the name of the stick. It's got like tail on it. Brushes. Oh, jeez. Let's get a more close, concentrated sound. And then a big room sound. We've got all these master patches, which I believe stack up instruments across the keyboard. Yeah, so now it looks like this is the ethnic solo instruments, left, right, all the way across. And again, it looks like you can completely adjust everything by changing your mixes. Or loading up the presets. So that was ethnic soloists. Here's ethnic ensembles. And then there's the all orchestral soloists ensembles. Let's just listen to some of these as well. Now I'm wondering what happens when we start to play with our microphone positions on this. Now, if I remember correctly, this is the only symbol in the library. I believe there's a separate folder with a couple NKIs, but it's the only symbol they have recorded for this, which my original critique, comment I should say, is that this isn't truly a orchestral library because there's no timpani and there's only the one symbol. So it's not going to replace an entire orchestral library, although obviously this is built for scoring. Okay, this is the Tycho solo instrument. And let's listen to the Tycho Ensemble instrument. Let's hear some of the presets. Let's see here. Just this huge tom preset, see what it does. Yeah, lots more present, and when we get to that point, you can see that our different presets load up different microphone configurations. There's also effects channels for each of your mixers. There's advanced controls. I want to make sure and mention this offset. There's an offset so you get your transient beginning, and this is one of the things Performance Samples does on a lot of their libraries, so it's great that they've incorporated into this. It adds a lot of life to the beginning of a hit, and what you most likely want to do, or at least what I like to do, is go ahead and change your tracks offset once you get it programmed in, and you get a little bit of that transient hit, the intro to the hit before the actual whack of the attack. Let's move on to some big boomy toms and bass drum ensembles. Let's listen to a couple different versions of mixer presets with these. It's close. There's a couple variations of close they've included, and you of course can save your own once you've designed them. Let's listen to Room 1. And then let's get real crazy and listen to our toms and bass drums overhead mix. Then we go on to have, these are split velocities. We go on to have dynamic hits with standard velocities, Tycho Ensemble toms, and ethnics again. So the same instruments delivered in different ways with different kind of configurations for how you might want to play them, it looks like. Moving on, here is our only symbol. Delivered it as dynamics across the keyboard with velocities in blue and velocity sensitive keys in green. We got rototoms. Again, with this dynamic hits, got both velocity across the keyboard and velocity sensitive keys at the top. Now, this is rototom 1. So we've got rototom 2. And rototom 3. We've got 7 of these guys. All the way up to and it looks like high multi-rototom fills. This should be pretty cool to listen to. This is 120. Get my tempo correct. And then we got 170 for high fills. There's additional low multi-toms with arrhythmic fills. And then we've got low multi-tom fills on the bottom here. And just a note before I go any further. These red keys that turn yellow, that changes where your sample start is. So for instance, here's the F1 with the C 0 key, and now here's with the D sharp 0 key. So you could start, basically you're able to cut in and start sooner on the sample with that, the way that's configured. Now, what I don't see here is a all rototom instrument. Let me just go back and check our master patches. Ethnic toms, Tychos, orchestral toms. No. Okay, I'm kind of surprised that there's not a rototom all instrument, because from what I saw, it looks like if we loaded these all up, I'm going to load the two of them up at the same time. I think they use the same keys. Yeah, so I would have liked to have had an instrument with a multi, where all of the rototoms are mapped across the keyboard, which I might have overlooked, but I do not see it there. And I don't see a rototom ensemble, which doesn't make sense to call it that. Let's move on to shakers. Here's the shakers instrument. I'm going to mute my mic. And with this one, it sounds like it'd be kind of neat to hear the close mic'd versus a big overhead mix. Real roomy. And then an instrument that I probably will pull up often when using the library is this here. They're traditional hits and rolls, which give us mod wheel velocity, dynamics, I should say, for rolls. And then just hits. And then there's some flams. And I wonder if our flams... Okay. I'm starting to like the way... Here's my slow flams. Here's my slow flams, fast flams, traditional hits. So that's pretty cool. I like the way you could stack all of them and have a little bit more across the keyboard, as you can see, with one instance of contact. And let's go ahead and move on to the Cerdo Ensemble. There's 3 hard versions. And this ensemble's a little looser. Hear a little flam to it. And then with the, I believe these are brush sticks. The other thing I didn't note yet is that, look, this is a 4.7 megabyte instrument. And I have yet to see anything, I think, over 30 megabytes total. So let's go ahead and check out one of the... Okay. So let's check out the Tycho Ensemble. And we've got quite a few instruments here. Let's just go through quite a few of these. Make sure I got everything else closed. We've got some fills. Both in 120 and 170. And then we've got some muted Tychos. Fills. As well as some double fills. That's kind of cool. Yeah, so we got 2 different sized Tychos, it sounds like, going to town on that one. Rimmes fills and brush fills. Then we have our brush dynamic hits. Some improvs. Yeah, that's a great sound. And there's tons of these. They've really added so much with these fills and improvs. And some phrase ending hits. 2 different instruments for those. Phrase ending hits for everything. You've got fills and improvs. And then we've got a muted Tycho dynamic instrument. as well as the hard ensemble traditional hits and rolls. And this might be fun to load up a preset on. Some slow flams, and then some hard fills. So quite a few Tycho ensemble instruments. And let's continue on. Let's listen to the toms now. That's how it loads up. Let's hear this overhead tom mix. Quite a few. Boy, really smacks it. Okay, this is probably a really good place to talk about the note overlap. Notice how when I hit the note interrupt, it stopped the notes from playing over each other. And the reason that this is good is because they've delivered the instruments with complete samples, no noise reduction, because they felt, and I agree with them, that it loses some of the quality of the samples. And by doing this note overlap, we're able to remove the end of the room tail buildup, which you'll hear here. So you hear all that hiss and buzz build up. But if we do it with the note overlap, we only have the tail of the last note or two that we used. So that's an important thing to remember as you use the library. Get the most out of it. I think in the video, the official video, they also show a little bit about using the low pass cutoff. And I'll include all of those official videos in the Sample Library Review LA Modern Percussion page. Let's continue on. Here's Tom's Hard Fills. So those are, I've got my tempo to 170, and those are 120, so you can see they play back. No problem at faster speeds. And then they've got hard double fills. As well as the phrase end hits. And I believe that you could layer these. So we've got phrase end hits up here. And that way we could play our we could layer the instruments, and that way you get your phrase end hits at the top of the keyboard and your hard double, or your fills across the bottom of the keyboard, your phrases, I should say. And so, looks like we got dynamic kits with a couple versions of the brushes. And here's one specifically called brushes. Then we've got the traditional hits and roll. And then we have our solo tom instruments. And it's pretty amazing just with the amount of microphones, the character changes you can get in the instruments. And I have yet to hear any phasing or flanging between channel sampled microphone positions. Looks like there's 4 different toms they've sampled, and they delivered fills for each of them. As well as individual instruments. And played with the nice ring. See, I think that the ring on this instrument is probably a very good indication of why you wouldn't want to go through and use noise reduction to batch clean the noise off your tails, because you'd probably lose a little bit of that ring, or at least the character to it. We got one more folder here, the 2-pan Soloists. Soloist. Let's go to the close mics. Close mix, I should say. Then we've got a room mix. Overhead focused, and then an overhead mix close. And they've got left and right versions. I saw a couple left and right versions throughout, as well as brush and improvs. This This is improv's at 120. My tempo's at 170 right now. I think that is gonna wrap it up. I wanted to be sure to give a fair showcase of what this library contained. Like I said before, if you saw the original walkthrough video, I had some effects that were lingering in Contact that had corrupted the playback, so it wasn't a true representation of what you get from the library. I wanted to make sure and set the record straight with this video. Thanks for sticking around through the entire thing. Hope it's been helpful and useful. I've found this library, been using it quite a bit this week, and I found it to be incredibly transparent. Such detail in the stereo space, not to mention the options for microphone positioning and changing the entire sound of that. The effects section for EQ compression on off per mixer channel can really add to the mix. I'm pretty impressed with it, and I think they've done a fantastic job with this. It's truly one of the jewels of percussion for Contact at this time in 2019. Love to hear your thoughts about the library. Please comment below. I'm always interested to hear what you're thinking, if this is something you're picking up, if it's something you already picked up. Please comment in the description below. Always appreciate your support. Please like, share, and subscribe. And be sure to head over to samplelibraryreview.com for the latest news, reviews, and our weekly deals page.